Gulag, so props to him, hats off to him. I'm not quite sure if it was due to this tournament, but anyway, maybe a little bit. In the bottom right side, there is that blue Terran powerhouse fighting for the Dragons, the Phoenix, and the Gamers. He is Cure.
And spawning in the top left, our Finnish Zerg playing for NC Esports. Give it up for Serral. Now, for whatever reason, no, the audio's working. I don't feel like I can hear anything, though.
Really? Interesting. Huh. I can hear it.
That's beautiful. Oh, here we go. I got you. I got you, chat. You're all good. Don't worry. You don't have to mess with your volume knobs. I took care of it for you. Oh, and now it's extra loud. I love it. So,
also coming in here with a massive raid. Man, we are being very fortunate with all these SC2 people showing us some love right now. Much appreciated, guys.
Everybody's hyped for Serral. Everybody knows they want to catch a piece of what Serral's going to bring. And again, I do feel very confidently that this is going to be a very good best of 5. Of course, all of our quarterfinals today will be best of 5 matchups. So buckle in, everyone. We have some great StarCraft coming in for you. Now, Serral has already done his due diligence here, running that Overlord out to the typical proxy locations. Does not want to get caught in game number 1 Kozan with his pants down and all of a sudden a whole bunch of Marines show up at his door.
Yeah, let's see. He does move that other Overlord backwards as well again, so kind of double checking. He's not going in with a drone scout there. He will just kind of commit with the just the regular Overlord scouting. And hope that is going to be enough right now, right? It's gonna help him get just a few more minerals in the bank, be a little bit less safe. But in the matches that we saw between Cure and Raynor, I think that's something we're gonna have to harp back onto quite a couple of times. We didn't see Cure go for the proxy racks too much, and I believe maybe one time when he did it, ultimately it got held rather heavily. Actually, he went for I remember this now. Oh my dear Lord, he went for a proxy 4 Rex, Rushy. 4 Rex, a double 2 Rex proxy. That did occur. Ultimately, it went absolutely horrendous because, well, Raynor was trying to do a Roach Rush at the same time, so didn't quite work out for the Terran player at that moment in time. But ooh, does get a drone here though.
Yeah, that's a pretty decent pickup, all things considered. Anytime a Reaper can pick off those drones, if anything, you can write it off as, oh, it's just one drone, but it's a mental win. Right? You're getting on top of your opponent who's already like, I need to stay on top of this. Almost gets the third base delayed as well, but Serral's going to be able to throw that down, and Cure is going to keep that pressure on, trying to keep the momentum of Serral slowed down, at least for now.
Yeah, and, well, Cure is getting himself at third base already. Also is Serral, of course, not too far behind. It should be a nice moment there for Cure. The thing that we should point out on this map is that third base on Lightshade, right, on one of the newer maps, is extremely open. There's so much open space right there. If you do go for the triangular setup, it's a lot easier to, of course, build your base there and then a shorter flight distance, so it's going to be better for you overall. Also, a smaller walking distance from that third to your natural than the one if you were to take the one further above your natural. But ultimately, we're seeing still Terrans taking the triangular base, regardless of any type of roach attack. And talking about roaches, there is once again a roach warren here coming up on this map. This seems to be a staple build for this one that you're always going to have to keep in mind. And we're not seeing 2 Evo chambers coming down at the same time either. We're not seeing a lay attack coming up, so it's just going to be slow roach ravager here. Could just be for the poking and trying to get us a little bit of damage early on. Or it could be more than that, of course. Still getting the spore crawlers back at home as well, as we have a battle cruiser opening here for Cure.
Yeah, and this is actually a pretty quick transition into a third base as well, so I'm interested to see that battle cruisers come up as late as it has. Usually want to rush that out really, really fast. That could lean into Serral's advantage here because he has plenty of roaches coming across, and that battle cruiser being delayed is going to hurt Cure's ability to be able to shut this down. So right now, Cure has to run everything back. Those Hellions know that everything is on the way. The third immediately getting picked up and brought back into the main. And Cure is already in desperation mode. He doesn't have a whole lot to shut this down.
Yeah, I mean, the battlecruiser is still only halfway at the moment. A lot of links also here on the ball, and looks like Serral, first and foremost, will target down the supply depots. Kind of indicates that he is just trying to get whatever he can at the moment, waiting for that Overlord to get towards that high ground at the moment as well. There we go, gets those piles now landing on top of those supply depots. Also, there's bunkers waiting though, and that battlecruiser about to pop out. The Zerglings may be in for a little bit of a nasty surprise trying to run up that ramp with this amount of Hellions and the battlecruiser there.
Well, I still think this is a really rough position for Cure to try to play from, because there are enough Roaches and Ravagers here to try and zone out the Hellions, but the Link Flood is going to try and push on forward, trying to deny the repair on that orbital. So now Cure having to run 2 bases up into his main. That completely shuts down his economy. Serral on the backside of this is going to be able to drone up. He's going to try and delay this push back as long as humanly possible, but he should have enough units back at home to protect against this. Already throwing down the Spore Crawlers into those mineral lines. Take a look at that income advantage he's immediately going to get on top of, and suddenly Cure is looking a little weak on the rebound here. He's going to try and get some damage done, but I'm not sure what he's going to get accomplished.
Yeah, but ultimately, like, all right, he did manage to deny the mining there for a long time. Some of the SCV production, of course, not quite being able to go as fluently as he wants to. But at the same time, Serral, of course, I mean, look at that, only at the 7-minute mark right there, that layer coming up at the moment. Also, that paneling that's very much delayed. He's going to go up against mech as well, it looks like. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's still a playable position for Cure here. There's not that many queens out on the field either. Still a long way off any spy attack, of course, now. And these battlecruisers, they are very likely to do a lot of damage at the moment.
Yeah, he's committing into those battlecruisers quite a bit here. He's got a third one in production already. Yamato cannon being researched as well. And with 2, it's a little bit more difficult for Serral to try and deflect these off. He just doesn't have enough queens. He's already lost 9 drones as a result of it as well. So this ended up being a pretty decent transition and pivot here for Cure, making things a little bit more confident here than I think Serral was even prepared for.
Yeah, still zapping away at queens and overlords right now. Serral still sitting at an okay drone count, but he is losing a lot of stuff. In the bottom right side, we can clearly see 2,300 resources lost by Serral, 600 there lost by Cure. So Cure definitely kind of equalizing the score here, and making things all playable again for him after having that lost mining time and such, right?
Well, and I feel as if, yeah, you're absolutely right. He is making the most of this and has already rebounded. Sorry, I'll talk to your point before moving on to my own. That's how rude of me. So yeah, Cure is doing a wonderful job here. He's got that balance back up. He's already got his third base secured, and he's in a great spot. And I feel like Serral's response to this has been very, very slow. He got his lair at a pretty decent time, but the Spire went down so late. He already knew there were 2 battle cruisers on the field. That's gotta lead you to believe that there's gonna be a bigger commitment to mech and a bigger commitment to those battle cruisers. So that Spire only now finishing up, and he doesn't really have a whole lot of vision here. He hasn't seen a lot of that third base just yet, and now Cure able to secure everything down. He's got those tanks in place. He's got his 4th base underway. These Ling run-bys might not get as much damage done as he would hope them to. Yeah,
he still has a paneling nest also, but of course there's so many upgrades he needs to get right now to make that, once again, go back into the Roach play. The Hydra play also very likely to be coming in fairly soon, and grabbing himself the Corruptus also. So it looks like Serral is all in the know that this is in fact that mech play. Finally, these Hellions actually coming across the field. It felt like they were a little bit passive there for a while, didn't it? Where they just quite didn't facilitate a lot of attacking while those battlecruisers were creating openings for them, perhaps. So yeah, they just kind of were on the back foot there, staying in their own base, perhaps anticipating Ling run-bys and such.
Well, those Yamato cannons starting to get used here, starting to pick off those Corruptors. Once again, Corruptors finally out on the field a little bit late, but better late than never. Cure, however, has really made himself a footing in this game, showing why he very confidently took down Rainer in the group stage D. He's already got a pretty close to even worker count here. Again, with Mules, that's going to bump up even further. And now is 4th base getting on site. Serral now just trying to get out to his 5th base, and Hellions are going to continue to make that harassment even more difficult for Serral to really get secured. And this is kind of cute, knocking down that barracks. And Kjord is going to continue rotating around the map. He's got great coverage. He has pretty decent scouting so far. Serral's still struggling to get his creep spread out onto the map, but he's starting to push forward and maybe get a little bit more confidence as his Hive Tech starts up.
Yeah, I'm wondering where he's going to take the Hive Tech for now, because we're not seeing a Hydralisk den, right? I mean, the previous time when we did see him go up against Maru as well, he didn't really ever go into the Lurkers, and I feel like the Lurkers are quite a essential thing to have against this type of mech. But then again, we do already have those 12 siege tanks here, so maybe it's a good thing, right? Only a few of the battle cruisers still flying around. Not that many Thors in the production tab either. Okay, just as I said, of course, 2 just pop up right there, and yeah, I mean, Kjord's army is looking quite frightful, right? We've been talking a long time about how scary mech looks in a sense. Terrence then kind of started going more so into the bio once again, but I mean, this mech army, it is still very strong, and you need to have good answers to it. And it looks like with that Burrow on the way, I'm anticipating that we're gonna try this. Well, we're gonna see Serral trying to get himself some infestors. And yeah, there's that pathogen glance as well now. So neural parasiting, siege tanks, Thors and such is a great way to try and combat this type of army. Try to be efficient with your supply versus the very, very heavy supply cost, of course, of these mech units.
Well, we've seen this before with the infestor tech trying to get on top of all of those expensive, valuable mech units, and it hasn't played out in the past as well. So we're gonna have to see if Serral can make that work here. But we're gonna have to see if Serral's even able to get to that point. These battle cruisers have been getting a lot of great harassment done onto his economy. 9 more workers going down as a result of it. And they do manage to grab a scout, so they are going to see that Hive Tech is already on the field. Cure can start mentally preparing for those Ultras, those Vipers, those Infestors with upgrades on the way, and he's just going to continue moving out. He is in a comfortable position where he has those sensor towers. He's traded super efficiently all game, only losing 1 tank in this entire game so far. I mean, he has had a very, very good run so far with making the most of what he's built, and that is going to put a person like Serral on the back foot as he consistently has to try and trade inefficiently. Yeah, up until he has a better army composition, right, and he's still quite far removed from here. A good couple of bios, could pick up those valuable units still as well, very nicely, and trade efficiently in this way. Okay, the Corruptors also flying in, tanking a lot of the firepower from the Thors, I suppose, but the supply for Serral going down quite a bit more rapidly than that of Cure. And more roaches and more Zerglings here to replace it for now. I'm just looking at that production tab. What is he going to go for? Is he going into the Greater Spire? I would have a hard time believing that, honestly, against this amount of Thors. Okay, he's going for a Nidus Worm. And there is the Greater Spire also coming up with another Spire. So it looks like this is going to be the way he wants to try and combat this. Was go for the Broodlords and go for the Infestors as well. Get the Neurals perhaps onto the Thors and allow your Broodlords to get more damage done on the ground forces of Cure. And it's a way to do it for sure. And he's going to have to buy some time still, of course, with that Nidus. It's absolutely fantastic. Mech, very slow army composition, right? Those siege tanks and Thors, they don't like to run around back and forth from the top side to the bottom side of the map. So great way there for Serral to try and make use of this. But those battle cruisers already in position with another siege tank there as well. It looks like Cure is pretty much almost anticipating this, ready for that potential of a Midas network popping up somewhere. Well, think about what you can go through in your mind as you play a late game portion. You can just immediately keep thinking, okay, what kills me now? What happens from Serral that just ends the game for me? And at this point, to what you already illustrated, it's that slow army composition. Well, if all of a sudden Serral pops up in a bunch of different locations and I can't spread my army out to defend, I'm just going to lose a lot of eco, and eventually he's going to trade out and beat me. So knowing that in the back of his head, is able to keep on top of what is going to be his weakness and exploit it, getting some really nice biles off onto that battle cruiser right there. Very cute play here by Serral, but Serral's going to need a lot more than just cute play to get ahead in this game. He is very, very behind at this point. It's kind of saving a little bit of that supply for those Broodlords. That Neural Parasite also being researched as well. All that tier 3 tech starting to pour on in. And I think the players are just going to be happy trying to split the map here at this point. Serral's going to need a lot more creep spread if he wants to make the most of that.
Yeah. I mean, those biles from those battle cruisers, you don't see that enough, do you? Just biles punishing the Yamato cannon in a way. Very cool to see stuff like this. Serral here on the top side trying to draw away attention, I believe, from the bottom side for Kyo as he is taking that expansion away. That would be very beneficial for him, right? He has been trading out very unfavorable. So if he is capable of kind of taking another base away from Kyo, reaching out and grabbing all those resources away, that could be a fantastic way to kind of make up for the inefficient trading he has done so far. Because it's still going to be a little bit here before he will be able to start trading efficiently himself. And even then, I mean, it's going to be difficult, right? It's going to come down to Kyo not really spotting the infestors that are being burrowed, not quite controlling his Thors correctly, perhaps as well against the Broodlord, stuff like this. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see, of course. Oh. Man, Serral not really doing anything with the Nidus Worm anymore either. 20 Mutalisk on the way. What?
That's a funky little transition here. I like that. That will definitely catch Serral, or catch Cure off guard, excuse me. It's going to be a matter of whether or not Serral has enough on the ground to be able to deal with those Thors, because obviously Thors are really good against those Mutas. It doesn't matter how much you magic box them, but this is going to be the kind of harassment that the Nidus network wasn't able to get accomplished. He's going to take those Mutas right into the main base and hope that Cure hasn't populated everything with a ton of turrets. And I think even if he does, at least 20 Mutas, we'll be able to get some of those defenses killed off pretty quickly as they just fly on in and immediately start getting on top of the production here. Corruptor's being brought in as well to deal damage, and all of a sudden all these factories are now under attack.
Yeah, it's almost like he's again trying to buy himself time. I very much like this, honestly, because it kind of lets him clean up these smaller defensive forces in the main base, and then perhaps if he wants to, he could try to once again go more so for the Nidus Swims into the main base if he does manage to open some actual place up in that main base, right? He can try to get those roaches and ravages in there also. But it looks like he is really prepared for that one. But yeah, the Mutalisk, maybe again, once more, a bit of a mechanism to try and take attention away from their bottom base, put pressure elsewhere, and keep mining from that location.
Well, it's going to put us into a position where Serral is able to swap out armies rather frequently. I mean, look at that bank. 8K in minerals, 4K in gas. He can easily trade out as efficiently as he can and try and come back with a new army composition that might just get Cure off foot. So any disadvantage that Serral had earlier in the game, I mean, he's kind of wrestled it back here. He's got a pretty decent worker count. He actually did manage to take that base in the bottom side. And now Serral trying to get as much information as he possibly can. He's got chitinous plating on the way, so ultras are going to hit the field at some point. But Cure already has liberators out, should be able to help deal with those effectively. But it's more mutas in production to try and continue exploiting the slow-moving mech army of Cure.
Yeah, it is nuts though. Cure is making so many static defenses at the moment. I don't see this all too often, right? In these pro games where there's this many missile turrets being made. The game between Maru and Parting kind of comes to mind, but otherwise you just don't see this all that often. And I mean, Kjør, he's just playing as turtley as he can get. Will finally be able to start encroaching onto this position here. Is this going to allow Brute Lords and such to come in on the top side? I think it very well may. That is where I believe he is coming into, at least with Brute Lords. We'll be seeing it momentarily, most likely. I
was going to say, it's a slow push here, but I love the use of those mutas getting on top of the Thors, and that's going to allow those Broodlords to try and stick around for at least a little bit longer, but one battlecruiser lingering here. Some very, very good turret coverage is making the exchange here not as useful for Serral, but he's able to just continue making behind us 19 more Mutalisk into production, and he's just going to he wants to continue to get on top of this base. 11 workers have fallen so far, so Serral's trying to do as much as he can to limit the economic push of his opponent. But now those Thors show up, the army is rotated, and Serral needs to bring in the ground forces to try and clean this up, and he's getting pretty good trades so far.
Yeah, we'll be able to clean up these small number of Thors. Of course, the siege tanks, they are being very much spread thin. So now finally being able to jump right on top of this base, and it does fall. So I mean, Kjør finally manages to stabilize from the bottom side, grabbing himself that base that Serral sneakily managed to get into his own kind of income. But now the top base falls. So, I mean, Serral, backing into the Mutalisk, back into the Ultralisk, and more Roaches and Ravagers on the way. It's a very interesting way of playing, but I mean, if Serral is doing this type of stuff, you better bet that this is a fantastic way to play it. Oh my god, where are the Thors?
They are nowhere to be found, but those Liberators are going to be able to help out, especially if those mutas do get clumped up, but too many mutas will be able to just pick those off. More workers are going to be going down, and this is that mobility that we were talking about earlier with Serral. Kjør not able to keep up as effectively as he wants to, so he's going to lose a lot around the map. It's going to force him more into spending his minerals on more turrets and that static defense, and Kjør's got the bank to do it, so that's not a big issue, but those turrets are not going to defend against Ultralisk, Kozan.
Yeah, it's a rough one for sure, and here we go again once more into this place right here. Those Mutalisks, they are just jumping on top of the turrets. They do have very fantastic upgrades, so they trade out all right against this, but I mean, you have to be so careful, right? If there's like 3 Thors there that all get a shot on to your Mutalisk as soon as you try to pick up one of those missile turrets, that could be a lot of dead mutas still. And again, another base does fall here for Kjør. I like the fact that Serral seems to be going more so for the bases rather than the SCV. So I don't think that is exactly where he needs to find his fortune, and taking out these bases, right, just denies the mining there for a lot longer time. Cleaning up the SCVs, I don't think that would be too influential, right? Kjør doesn't mind that too much, may even be able to facilitate more army units overall for him and make it easier to defend 2 locations at once.
Just absolutely love the amount of minerals both of these players have. Have so much money in the bank, and Serral will feel super confident. He doesn't want to trade too inefficiently, because obviously if all of a sudden he throws away 40-50 armor supply without damaging Kjør in any way, Kjør's just gonna march across the map and win the game. But when you've got that much in the bank, I mean, you can just keep being bold with those mutas. Go in on those mineral lines. Get on top of those tanks and pick a few off now and again. You can easily remake those, and Serral's the kind of player who's going to stay on top of his injects, so that is going to be just fine. And he's going to get on top of this base once again. This is now just an orbital command, so not going to have the extra fortifications. Trying to split in a couple of different locations, slow down the Thor and tank army that's coming to reinforce. But now those mutas being zoned off. In fact, they might have actually been picked away at. I guess he still has 10, but not enough to deal any major damage to that orbital command. So 11 workers going to go down, but Kjør gets to keep the base for now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a little bit worried. Kjør is still managing to mine from these 2 locations, and he has a lot of bases to kind of float over there whenever he needs to, right? And the overall resources lost tab, not looking all that fantastic for Serral at the moment. I don't know. If he does manage to grab one of these bases and start mining from it himself, fantastic. He's going to be in a great spot with this type of army and these types of tactics, but we're not quite seeing that. We're still seeing Cure maintaining control of these bases. And Serral, yeah, he's getting some trades here and there, but ultimately the resources lost is going further and further into favor for Cure, and that is what Cure wants. This is what he's trying to get done. Serral, I feel like he has to try and come up with a way to start gaining more favorable trades, and that could be with the Infestors, that could be with, I don't know, maybe Swarm Host or something like that as well, right? Just grab yourself not an insane amount, but just enough to kind of pick off a siege tank over and over and over again to whittle down the defenses without losing too much yourself. All right, here we go, though. These Infestors, absolutely fantastic. You managed to get on top of 3 of these stores. The siege tanks also falling rather rapidly, and that is a great way to start being more efficient with your army overall.
Well, Kozan, the best way to
in a bit of trouble.
The best way to be a Terran army is just to fight him with a Terran army, and that's exactly what Serral's going to do. He's going to take all of Cure's units and use them against him. 124 Zerglings in production, Kozad. He's starting to feel confident for that Ling Swarm, but I don't know. I don't know if I like that decision. Obviously, Serral's got the master plan baking in the back of his brain, but I still feel like there's too many tanks out on the map. However, there could still be enough Infestor energy to try and take over more of those units, and those Lings will be able to get the work done that they want to. But here comes the Swarm. Is just going to pile on into that 3rd and 4th base location, actually getting on top of those tanks that I was concerned about earlier. They're all unsieged, and now they are all gone. So Serral getting some good, efficient trades there, trading out Zerglings for tanks is a great position for him, but right now lacking a little bit of the larva to remax here, or he's being indecisive on what he wants to remax to.
Yeah, I mean, there was so many links though, right? And those Hellions and Hellbats, they do manage to deal with it rather decisively as well. And Serral once again trying to just mix up his composition, going for 18 Corruptors now this time around. The top side base, by the way, that he has been hammering into continuously. I mean, it's an important... Is it as important as the base on the bottom side? I don't think so. Even the one further to the top right hasn't been mined from as much. So kind of a wise choice there by Cure, mining more so from that other base instead of the one that's further backwards and easier to defend, being able to get more minerals there. But that's another thing, right? We're seeing Serral continuously hammering into this base right here, but ultimately, how much is there really still to fight for there? And if Serral does manage to grab it, is he actually going to make up for the amount of resources inefficiently traded for this place? And yeah, look at that. It's already pretty much mined out now, so I think Serral's kind of have to give up on that base entirely.
But that unit's loss tab, Kozan, is very telling. It is very close on that mineral count. Now Cure is going to start feeling comfortable moving on to creep, and this is where Serral has to start making some really quick decisions. Cure needs to be punished for moving out. It's been a very, very long game. 28 minutes has built up to Cure being able to move out, and he's just immediately going to back off. So taking that base, taking 12 workers off the top of a mining base, and Cure is just going to play it safe, does not want to overextend. And Serral unable to get any damage done on the backside to Cure as well. Cure is just able to continue turtling up, holding down those different bases with planetary fortresses, and making the most of this. Ooh, some nice little damage there on that larva count, but he's got 36, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal.
Yeah, we'll be able to still maintain the mining there overall. A couple of Hellbats there. You know what? Serral does have to be careful, right? Can't afford to lose too many more, otherwise he will have to replenish them, and that is the opposite of what he would like to do at the moment. Losing a queen there also those are important units, right? In those final fights with the Ultralisk and the Brute Lords, this could be very important to have those transfusions, but in fact, we have a massive attack right here. Careful not to clump up against those Liberators for the time being, but again, Serral?
Cure's playing this out really well. He has forced Serral to constantly trade into him, so Cure can't just barrel ahead. But secretly, he's already kind of made that work out in his favor. He never has to move out onto the map, and Serral's always going to come to him. So keeping those Liberators sieged, keeping those tanks sieged, Serral's going to constantly lose more and more. And it's becoming a bit of a back and forth here, but is that 21 Broodlords on the production tab right now?
It very well could be. It's gonna be scary to see all those Broodlords for sure, but okay, he still has 14 Corruptors here also. I'm not sure how this is gonna go. If he gets good neurals on top of those floors, maybe, but I mean, there's already missile turrets here coming up as well. Looks like Serral will try to make his move on the top right side again here, as he is losing actually one of his own bases also on the bottom side. Needs every single mineral from these patches that he can get, right? It is absolutely crucial. He manages to squeeze out as much as he can.
Well, this is important. This is important information to note here, Kozan. There is no gas production here for Serral. So every gas unit that Serral loses, it is almost impossible to replace. He has a small amount of gas in his bank, but that is it. So this feels almost like a little bit of a last-ditch effort by Serral to try and push forward. Only now getting a little bit of gas production back, but this still feels very scary for both of these players. This is a very difficult army to try and engage on top of, especially with Vipers.
Yeah, I mean, Blinding Cloud could be pretty darn good here, but so could those Liberators, right? 12 of them, 11 of them, with a couple of Thors underneath as well. That's a lot of damage that can be thrown out there. All of them do have +3 upgrades as well. Look at the red bar there. All the upgrades for Serral also completed. Okay, Serral does manage to deny mining there as well. That top right side is still quite open in the amount of stuff is available there for Cure, so a very important base for Serral to clean up. And actually, the overall resources lost tab here getting a little bit closer for Serral, so looking a little bit brighter for our Finnish player here.
Love the static defense. Serral's like, well, if you're going to build a whole bunch of static D, I guess I will too. Fine, two can play that game.
Yep.
These infestors are going to be the hero units, and they have been spotted. The scan does go down, so Cure is going to have to play careful. He is not going to overextend. It does not want to lose all of his valuable units to those infestors, because if 5 of those Thors get picked away by Cure, now suddenly this is a very good position for Serral to try and engage on top of. More Zergling run-bys down at the base here on the 3rd location, and that is just an orbital, so Hellions will have to get called in. Some Thors will have to be called in to clear those up. It's going to slow Cure's push forward, and those Queens are going to try and get that creep spread a little bit further in advance. But we're at the 33-minute mark, and these two players just continue posturing in different parts of the map here.
This is such a weird sight. Seeing creep spreading Queens suddenly approaching these random orbitals that are just spread across the map everywhere. Not a fight you see every day, that is for sure. But anyway, here we go. This could start to become quite a mess pretty soon, guys. They are both in the middle. They are both looking for the right time to engage. Serral again deciding to move backwards a little bit more, so trying to still avoid the absolutely devastating blow army there that is available for Cure. That is so many Thors. That is still so much anti-air available. That is absolutely terrifying. A lot of Lings could help out a ton here, right? We still have a little bit of a bank, but here we go. Actually, there are quite a couple of spells there. The fungal and the parasitic bomb.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. That does shut down and kind of really damage the Liberators that Cure needs to be able to zone out these bulky ground units of Serral. And this is getting to be a bit of another scenario where Serral's going to have to try and chain those again, but now I think Cure is going to be able to spread that just a little bit better. It's going to try and punish it on the top right by getting on top of more production, but Cure, I feel really confident for Cure. It seems like he's making the right decisions here in game number 1 to try and just be careful with his push, that he doesn't overextend, and these scans have been so good for him. Serral unable to get those infestors in a secret place so he can pick off those units and make this fight more doable for him.
Yeah, and this is just all coming down to one single fight here. Neither of these players fully committed yet. Both just looking for whatever they can pick off at the time. Serral trying to ensure that this will be the final fight, shutting down more loose units here and there, trying to find whatever mining may still be happening on the top side, and kind of punishing Cure for trying to move out here with these Lings at the moment. Gotta be careful, though. Those things are still very valuable to have around, right? Like, especially against this amount of Thors, they will do quite well against those. If you manage to get them on top without too many Hellions or Hellbats in the neighborhood to help out.
All right, so now the question becomes, Serral's getting a lot of great damage done. Oh, okay, another good fungal going down, and that's going to be another chained parasitic bomb. And look at how much damage that gets done. Cure not even trying to do anything about that. So now a whole bunch of those Liberators go down. He's only got 5 left. This is exactly what Serral needs. He's pinning this off with the fact that he's been harassing the production of Cure. So Cure not able to reproduce those units as quickly as he wants to. And the Ling Flood continues to stream across the map as Serral's trying to take those bases as well.
Don't fight this with Ling, Serral, please. Oh, he's losing so many so quickly. Look at that. That's ridiculous. Oy, 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 oy. Okay, well, I mean, he saves the base, I suppose. I'm not sure if that was worth it. Not that much left anymore in that base. I'm surprised he took it even at the moment. But anyway, I mean, that bottom base there seems a little bit more valuable at the moment. I suppose it is where Cure's army is also situated as well. So more likely to be picked off. Again, trying to pick off the low HP Liberators.
Well, now it's finally Cure starting to get more of those Liberators in production. He's got 5 on the way. Still needs those to be able to help zone for the Thors. But we're just continuing to see these 2 big armies posturing against each other. No player wants to advance too far forward. We're at the 37-minute mark of this game, Kozan. And ideally, I don't know if we have a clear end in sight yet.
It is a difficult one to call, honestly. I mean, this is a situation you don't see all too often, right? Especially with this amount of Brood Lords and such also in play. Not usually what you really go for against the Thors, but oi, oi, oi. Well, here we go, more parasitic bombs on top of the Vikings. The Vikings trying to get away. Again, the Brood Lords, they feel like they have to just retreat. Where are the Corruptors? Okay, finally coming in to help out in this situation. These bases, as we've mentioned, they are empty, so it's not the worst for Serral to give these up. It's a little bit of a shame that he won't be able to use those larvae that he has available on that location. 6 small Brood Lords just like that on the way here. But will they be able to morph in time? Already is Cure actually very, very aggressive right now, wants to force this fight. Serral may want to reconsider having those Brood Lords being morphed right there. All of them will be picked off. The Corruptors, I don't know what he's doing with the Corruptors. The Corruptors are trying to come in here, trying to get rid of the Liberators at the moment. Okay, the Brood Lord's also coming in. Infestus getting right on top of some of these Thors. Neuroparasite looking pretty darn good. Okay, will it be enough? The army supply for Cure here still looking relatively strong, but it will fall a little bit quicker right now as those Thor numbers get lower and lower. The overall targeting from those Thors not quite working out, and it's a massive portion of both players, their armies going down right now. 7 Brood Lords remain. Only a handful of Thors also.
Yeah, but this isn't even a game over situation here, Kozan. I mean, both players are on 12 to 13 workers. The army counts are rather similar. Now, one thing that Cure does have going for him is those Hellions and Hellbats are going to be very, very good against the Lings of his opponent. But those Brood Lords are still a very good force to deal with. I do like Cure's position, though. It feels as if Cure has very anti-Serral army composition right now, and both players have just been absolutely gutted. Both players are depleting their bank. There's no gas income for either player, and if you have no gas income for both players, Cure is going to benefit from that so much more than Serral will, because those Hellions will just trade out so effectively against Zerglings.
Yeah.
And now the last bastions of gas trying to be used here by Serral, those roaches in production. What a scrappy game number 1 in a best of 5.
For sure. Yeah, and it almost feels like it is coming down to the inefficient trading that happens, right? Because it never really went too far away anymore after that moment in time, but we're still seeing like around the 5 to 6k in difference right there, and that is kind of being represented now as well in Cure's army. I feel like that is still just looking a little bit feistier, a little bit more healthy overall. But something I like very much of Serral as well is he went for roaches and ravages instead of reinforcing with more lings. trying to be efficient with these vials. Perhaps will be able to get himself still somewhat of a positive trade here. Needs to avoid Cure from getting this base, though. He cannot afford to let Cure take a base advantage. That would be game ending.
Yes, it absolutely would. How Serral still has units that are high tech is just beyond me. He still has 5 infestors. He's got 7 of those brood lords. He has what he needs to try and shut this down, but he needs to try and push in before Cure can get more army put together. And this is now kind of the big engagement here. Those Ravagers going to swing on in the left-hand side. The Infestors on the top trying to get some good pick-offs with Neural, but not going to find everything that they're looking for. But Serral trying his hardest to push forward here. Those Broodlords are still able to siege from the back. Thor's getting dangerously low, but the range is so good, and both of these players are still so insanely close. The Orbital Command does get picked off, so Cure not able to just float onto that base.
Get those. Oh, he didn't quite target them correctly there with the Broodlords. The Ravager's not. I mean, it's such a rough call to make. The Infestors getting hunted down by the Hellions as that fight was going on. A very, very nice little micro thing there from Cure here. Oh, the Ravagers trying to commit. They do manage to kill all the
repair.
Thanks, but oh, the repair is so good in this situation. GG, a single Thor and a couple of Hellions managed to save the day here. Oh my dear Lord, are you kidding me? Is that how it ends? A single Thor and a couple of Hellions. My God, Rushy.
What an insane game number 1. 42 minutes, and it came down to both players being on 20 supply to finally decide it. That was game 1. What an outstanding slugfest here. Cure holding back. He stays so patient for the whole game. He just sits there and waits and, okay, keep feeding me your units. Keep running units at my main bases. Keep throwing away all sorts of stuff. I'm going to get my Thors up in count. I'm going to get everything put together. And then I'm just going to hope that I can outtrade you. And some very good positioning by Cure puts himself into just a wild position to be able to take game number 1. That could have gone either way, I think, all the way up to the very end.
Yeah, imagine, right? The things that influence that, all the tiny little things that could have changed the outcome of that final battle there. Keeping a couple of queens alive, get a couple transfusions on those Broodlords that almost, like those 2 Thors, did you see how red in the HP bar they were? Like 2 transfusions, maybe, and that army dies, and then suddenly, you know, you have something to work with, you can regenerate those Broodlords. A couple of Hellions getting on top of the Infestors here and there, being able to pick those off as that fight was happening. The Broodlords not quite being able to protect the Infestors either at that moment in time. Zerglings, right? A couple of Zerglings extra being able to be added into that location or anything like that. I mean, so many the tiniest minuscule things that could have changed the outcome right here. And man, that got down to the wire, as close as it gets, Rushy, as close as it gets.
Yeah, both players had to have been sweating that one out. So game number 2 is going to be on Death Aura. Now we're going to see how these 2 players will transition. Are we going to get another long drawn out game, or will we see a little bit of aggression out of our finished Zerg? Spawning in the bottom right, our blue Terran, playing for Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Give it up for Cure.
His opponent, of course, Jonas Sotala from Finland. From Ents Esports, he is the red Zerg in the top left side, Serral. Man, Cure is looking so incredible right now in TVZ. It's not even funny. It is ridiculous. Not only being able to take out Raynor, but now also taking the first map against Serral in a absolute slugfest of a game that could not have been any more epic, I would say, than what we got from that one. And then remember as well, he didn't just take out Raynor a single time, right? He didn't just 2-0 him in a best of 3. He also then 3-2 in the best of 5. He took him out twice, guys, on the same day, being able to get quite a nice score against him right there.
Now Serral. Oh, go ahead.
Now it's Serral taking the place here, trying to have to mount a comeback.
Well, and Cura's TVZ has just been on point over the last month. I mean, he's been taking very clean series off of players like Solar. He's been taking games off Armani. Armani has been playing some very good ZvT. So Cure being able to win over him, I mean, the Beyond Slayer, it's pretty good. Dongray Gu as well. And of course, you talked already about those 2 series against Raynor. And it just continues to show how confident Cure is in this matchup right now. I do still firmly believe that we're going to see Serral slip in to potential aggression here. I don't know that I mean, he sure can drag that game out. We could see another 20-25 minute game, but I don't know if Serral wants to do that back to back, especially when Cure was able to hold on and control a lot of the pace of that game. So I bet we're going to see a Serral who tries to get that tempo going a little bit faster here in game number 2.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. We know that Cure is very much capable of bringing as high of a level in TVC with bio play, right? Which tends to be a little bit quicker overall. The mech play, very defensive as he did, sure, it's a way to play it, but ultimately it's not how he has to play. He's not restricted to the mech play at all whatsoever. So yeah, being very much able to get things done a little bit quicker here. Once again, going for the triple CC. We're gonna have to wait and see if he will be planning to once again open up with something like the battle cruisers, but so far only a single gas, so we'll have to wait and see.
Well, I want to see how Serral is going to try and punish Cure for going for this fast CC once again. We saw that in game number 1, where Cure also doubled down with a battlecruiser opener, and Serral wasn't able to adequately punish. He got a good push, but Cure was able to hold it off for the most part. And here in game number 2, I mean, Serral is only now trying to get positioned with that Overlord to get some information. He's not going to be able to see that third CC right away. And this is a map that we see a lot of Mutalisk play on, and I think Serral could benefit from being able to play mutas on this map and really exploit the strength that composition has on Death Aura.
Yeah, it's a really good point you make, right? Because already right from the get-go, when Serral did try to commit with that attack, he was behind on resources lost, and ultimately we saw how close that got. Every single unit met it there in the end, and yeah, without that initial investment, who knows what could have happened there. Interesting. I already forgot about it, right? That game went on for a while. It wasn't too difficult to forget that it all opens up with like a roach push versus the battle cruisers.
Well, it seems as if both of our players are not opening exactly the same as they did in game number 1. Serral's going to throw down that layer tech. Going to commit into Ling Bane, getting that Baneling Nest down. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Muta play coming out here very soon for Serral. He's still on 1 gas, so hasn't quite made that transition just yet. But it's a Liberator opening with the Tech Lab on the Barracks. So it's going to be bio to start for Cure. So 2 fundamentally different games here for both of our players.
Yeah, well, and that's nice to see, right? We saw the long game. We saw what happens when these guys try to settle in, try to be, well, Cure defensive. Serral try to just poke holes in the defense. And you know what? Now we're gonna see it on a little bit of a quicker scale, perhaps, right? Where Cure most likely will be aggressive as well. If he does go for the bio, this could be actually quite devastating. Those Zerglings not in the right position to hold back those drones. He was being distracted by a Liberator in the main base right now. All these drones need to be extra careful. All right, 6 of them already going down. This is a big investment. That's a lot of Hellions. 9 workers. Okay, Queens, get there. Stop them at the ramp. Okay, love this blocking here.
Oh, but this is so bad for Serral. This is a lot of Lings lost. This is a lot of drones gone. He's losing so much mining on top of it as well. And these Hellions still have not been officially zoned. There's still 2 Hellions left. I mean, he can get more of these worker kills if Serral's not careful, but finally we'll be able to pick those off. But that is terrible, terrible damage for Serral, who is trying to control the tempo of the game himself. And now Cure's going to come over and say, oh, you're just going to let me roll 10 Hellions into your main base? Sure, that's fine. I'll get as much damage as I can, and it'll come out better for me.
Missing those injections as well, right? Was not on his bases right there, so that's less larvae, which means there's less less drones, less zerglings, whatever you want to make out of those little worms.
So we do have the double Evo chamber going down, +1 melee, +1 carapace on the way, and it seems like Cure is just going to double down into that bio production here, throwing down a couple more barracks, and now we're going to see those medevacs moving across the map. Cure wants to continue getting that pressure onto his opponent, who is now trying to get back onto the top side of his economy, and might not have as many army units, but now we see that centrifugal hooks finishing up, so Baneling speed will be able to help zone out Cure. Serral should feel a little bit more confident being able to get his creep spread pushed forward as well. And we see a Spire on the way, so we will see some Mutiling Bane play.
Yeah, we'll try to go for you know what, the regular TVC that we all know and love, right? The Mutiling Bane versus the bio play with the Widow Mines also. It's gonna come down to a lot of micro, a lot of random engagements across on the field, and yeah, I mean, this is also one of the places where Serral is absolutely fantastic. And, you know, overall, I mean, the work count slightly in favor here for Cure, but everything does seem to be ready to play for still. Needs to be careful, of course. The drilling plots here could be coming in as a little bit of a surprise. Needs to pull these drones a little bit quicker than perhaps he anticipated. First and foremost, careful. Losing quite a lot of those workers again. This is how Cure managed to beat Raynor as well in one of the games.
Yeah, and Cure is continuing to get more and more of that economic damage done. 13 more workers now makes this a more difficult position for Serral to try and advance his army tech. He's getting more worker kills on the backside of this. Where are those workers going down at? Adding 6 more, it looks like at the 4th base. So now Serral, who is trying to get into that Mutalisk production, getting 7 Mutas out, he's still trying to find a way to deal with all of these mine drops and really hasn't punished Cure over on his side of the map at all.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Maybe as soon as those Mutalisks come out, he may be able to start getting some work done across the field, but he still needs to be careful, right? These Widow Mines, okay, good reaction this time around. Seems like he is a bit more on the ball at the moment. Does lose another Mutalisk there, though. That is a bit of a pain, but saves most of his drones, and they are the important units at this time. That's awkward. He's like, I should become a hatchery one day. It's the laziest drone I've ever seen. You know what? I can become a hatchery tomorrow. That will be good as well. Oh, it's immediately going to get dreams crushed. Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah, unfortunate for both of those drones. They had dreams, but unfortunately ended a little bit too early. Now that, I was going to say, now that the Mutalisk are out, this is going to stop dealing as much damage, but he's just painting right on top of all of these bases. 10 more workers going down. Cure continuing to harass Serral and get so much damage done. This is just a battle of the ages that just will not play out, and what a telling tale here in this game number 2.
Yeah, this is becoming quite rough indeed. Overall, the resources lost tab not looking too horrendous for Serral just quite yet. He is starting to get to a position where he will become able to start getting across the field as well. And we'll have to wait and see, right? He may still be able to get some work done with those Mutalisks. He may still be able to perhaps get some good Baneling connections because his creep spread is not all that bad. The Widow Mines have been able to get into the mineral fields, but the creep spread is going okay. It's not perfect, of course, by any stretch of the imagination, but it's good enough that he will be able to withstand some of these marine pushes that are coming up.
But I feel like with Ling Bane, I feel like that creep spread needs to be a lot further out. Serral just doesn't have a whole lot of avenues to try and get around his opponent. And Cure, once again, is just going to kind of sit back and say, all right, I know that I've done a lot of economic damage to you. I've forced a lot of extra drones out of your production. I'm just going to lay back now, try and get my 4th base secure to get those center towers out onto the map. And now we start to see a Cure who is going to add those Thors into his army to deal with the Mutalisk coverage. Those mines still spread around the map ever so precariously. And that is what he's trying to look for, is some free pickoffs on those Banelings. But some good scouting by Serral will deny that, at least for now. This is a big engagement, though, rolling on in. Baneling's going to try and get on top of that Marine Bio Ball, but unable to get fully in front of it. Some good connections, though, regardless. Those mutas will be able to pick off all of the Metavacs. So, all in all, Serral getting a pretty decent trade there.
That could have been worse. That could definitely have been worse. And that was off of creep as well. So, you know, not too shabby. I'm a little bit worried here for Serral, as we're already seeing Marauders starting up the extra production. More tech labs as well being added onto barracks. It looks like you're already starting to prep for the eventual the Ultralisk. And we don't even see the Ultralisk on the cavern quite yet on the production tab. Looks like okay, there it is. First prioritizing the upgrades, of course, for the Zerglings, as that is quite the important thing to do.
Well, we now see Ultralisks coming on, and this is a pretty normal transition here at this point in the game. Nice little destruction of the supply depot wall, so this should be exposed for the future. Some Banelings connect with a pretty decent amount of the bio there, so I think that was more than Cure was expecting. He wasn't really microing that back too terribly hard, but it looks like he's looking on the left-hand side of the map, wants to get a little bit of counter pressure done. But Serral already lying in wait with those Banelings, trying to be as defensive as he can while moving out on the right-hand side. But some good scans forward will keep Cure at least in the safe for now. But this could be some decent damage here on top of his production.
I think what happened there was that Cure wanted to grab those Marines, and then, you know, you move the Marines backwards and let the Marauders tank the Baneling hits, but the Marines were being actually blocked by the Marauders and not allowed to move any further forwards. These Zerglings actually doing quite a bit of work together with those Mutalisks, forcing most of Cure's army back into the main base right now. A lot of the production under a bit of pressure. And, well, the upgrades, only +3 armor, not quite done yet for the bio. Getting a little bit delayed due to the Overseer. Serral trying to get value wherever he can.
He's got to be careful with those mines. The Mutas can only take so many of those shots before they have to completely pull off and become dead weight for about a minute while they try to heal up. And now Serral is going to get a little bit more mass in his ground army, getting those ultras on the ground. Chitinous plating just about finished, and that 3-3 will add a lot to the army composition. That +3 infantry armor now finishing up for Cure. So it's going to be 3-3 against 3-3 on the ground. And that should lean a little bit in Cure's favor here, but he's got to be able to trade effectively against those Banelings. And right now, trying to find a way to get that done.
Oh dear, this is quite a lot of Marauders fighting against those Ultralisk. They need to back up a little bit right now. There is, I think, a base right there that did get cancelled. Perhaps it did get killed as well, but it's hard to see exactly. Yeah, the army of Cure just seems to be able to deal with the army of Serral quite well at the moment. There's so many Marauders, and yeah, they do well against the Ultras. They do well against the Banelings also. I wouldn't mind to see a couple more Zerglings just being mixed in as well. There we go. That's a good amount right now. Together with the Mutalisk, we'll be able to deal with the Marauders, but it's you know what? Just kind of how this composition works, right? If you make too many Ultras Banelings, you're gonna die to the Marauders. If there's too many Marauders, you're gonna die to the Zergling and the Mutalisk. It's a composition. Oh my god, the Widowmine hits there quite massive.
Yeah, killing all of those Banelings is devastating for Serral, because now that bio army is going to be able to push forward. There's not a whole lot to zone for those Ultras against the Marauders. And now suddenly we see Cure having to back off here. Serral somehow makes a really good trade out of this. I don't know how you throw away 10 to 12 Banelings and still have to still be able to push off. I mean, Serral's playing a wonderful job, making me look silly.
Yeah, back onto the production again as well here, keeping Cure on the back foot. He's gonna lose some of his production once more. We'll be able to come in here with a couple of Marines. Looks like Serral, yeah, we'll try to take this trade for a moment, but realizing more Marines come in, and that is going to be a dangerous thing to try and really fight at this moment in time. Once more, though, and more pressure on this rich Vespian base on the top side. Serral coming in with, Zerglings on the back foot, being found out by those Widow Mines. Isn't it enough, though?
Mutas are going to come in on the backside, try to pressure the army from the rear, but not going to be able to get that done, and this just continues to be a back and forth push between Serral and Cure. Cure now able to push forward and clear out the creep, so Serral's going to have a difficult time. A couple of Banelings, the bio just doesn't walk over top of it, but he's trying, he's waiting. No, not going to find it yet. We're not going to get that content busted just yet, but we're going to keep our eye on that. More Banelings, more Ultras on the way. Serral's finding it difficult to try and deal some economic damage here. Cure just has some really nice coverage in all of his bases right now, and it feels as if he is a little frustrated by that.
Yeah, Serral once again trying to commit for the inefficient trading, but just staying ahead on bases, right? Just keeping Cure down on bases. But at the same time, he's losing bases also, so he needs to be careful. He needs to manage, actually, a bit of the area, push these armies of Cure a bit further backwards. Getting a good amount of SCVs there, that's always nice to see, but again, losing the just the overall area around that rich Vespian base, and Cure has been able to kind of secure the left side, on the mirrored side, right, on his rich Vespian base, pretty much.
Yeah, the Mutas are not getting as much value out of their existence as they were about 5-10 minutes ago in the game. I feel like Serral's actually getting a lot more value out of these wing run buys, and it's continued posturing by Cure trying to pressure Serral's 6th base at this point. He's doing what he did in game number 1. He's just doing it against Bio, trying to bleed out his opponent and force a lot of inefficient trades, and we're starting to see those losses start to stack up for Serral. Serral's now going to try and push on forward into these liberation zones. Those Ultras need to try and find a way to the front, but all of these units get cleaned up before they manage to get there, so they are going to have to back off. Those Liberators do get cleaned up, at least for now, so Serral's going to try and re-push once again, but he feels really confident that he has to hold this base, so he's trying to extend as far forward as he can, but now those Ultras are going to start to fall, and the supply continues to plummet.
Just absolutely fantastic army control from both these players here. A lot of transfusions going down, continuous splitting, trying to, spread out the Banelings, trying to spread out the Zerglings, stay on top of the Marauders and the Marines with the Ultralisk as well, and pulling back in time, and also keeping some of his stuff alive. But it looks like Cure does manage to eke out ahead just a little bit here, and once again, another base for Serral will fall, and that is going to be a rough one. Look at this supply right now, Rushy. That is not looking all too swell for the Finnish player right here.
Oh, and he's got to be feeling extra bad for the fact that he's on the verge of possibly going 0-2 against a Cure who is playing out of his mind right now. And that is not a good place to be. So Serral is going to try and dial something up to keep himself in this game, but he's all maxed out.
I think he thought he actually cleared out those Widow Mines right there. They will be resetting, and they will be getting some more hits onto those drones. That is very unfortunate. Now, again, Cure just coming in again with this parade push on the other side of the map this time around. Those Baneling landmines are just, I don't know, it feels like they are, when you try to put two magnets together with the same end, they just keep pushing away. It's like Cure's army just keeps getting pushed away by those Baneling landmines. Anyway, GG is called. Serral looking rather frustrated with himself there. And I mean, again, Cure proving to every single person watching the stream that he is absolutely formidable right now. He is not just a one-time thing being able to beat Raynor there. He is putting Serral up to the test as well. Serral, he is closing the door. He's taking off his sweater again, it looks like.
Yeah, he is not happy, and he really shouldn't be happy in that game number 2. I felt like he had a little bit better control. He was able to do what he wanted and play the kind of tempo he was more accustomed to. But Cure, again, just standing strong, saying, all right, I'll be patient. I'll whittle you down, but I really like the damage that he was able to do at the very beginning of the game, getting all of those drone kills off of mine drops, a little bit of pick here, a little bit of there, slowing down Serral enough so that he could continue to play very cautiously in the backside, and then suddenly he puts himself onto match point here, and this is not the upset that we were expecting here, Kozan.
Well, I mean, yeah, I still thought Serral would take it in the end, but ultimately, I did mention as well, I wouldn't be surprised if Kyo takes it in the end. A 3-0, though, that would be very upsetting. That would be something else. We need to see Serral just kind of getting it all together, stop taking that much damage from those early on Widow mines, and being able to actually facilitate more of a standing force against the parade pushes that later on will occur. Anyway, we're going back into the game. Romanticide will be the map right here for us. In the bottom right side, the blue Terran player fighting for the dragon, the Phoenix, the gamers. He is, of course, the Korean player named Cure.
He's got to win 3 in a row if he wants to advance on to the semifinals of the King of Battles. Spawning in the top left on Romanticide, it's Serral.
I mean, yeah. It's hard to call this an upset anymore at this point in time. Perhaps just with the severity of which it seems to be happening, right? Maybe that is the most upsetting thing, especially for our European and Westerner eyes. But yeah, I don't know, Rushy. I don't know. I'm just hoping we're gonna be able to still get ourselves to a game 5 in this one, because these guys have been providing us with some stellar StarCraft 2 overall, some really interesting things. And overall, the more matches that we get from Serral and Kyo, I think the better the entire StarCraft community will be.
I would agree with that sentiment, and I echo the same desire to see this go to a game number 5 if we can, if only just to see these two players continue to duke it out and add however many more hours to our production today as humanly possible. But it's a tall order at this point. Serral clearly a little frustrated. More than likely has to dig deep into his mind. Okay, what build order can I come up with? What do I need to do to try and offset Cure? And I think his decision making in game number 2 was fine. I don't feel like he ever played poorly. But it was Cure being able to get in and deal those little blows of economic damage. And it's very easy to just say, okay, well, I mean, he zoned out and lost 8 drones, but Cure had to sacrifice 10 Hellions to get it done. That's a great trade for Serral, right? Well, not necessarily if Serral is in the part of his build order where all of a sudden, okay, I want to be building army right now. I don't have the larva overhead to get on top of building more drones and then trying to get my army out, especially at timings with those mutas. You really want to be focused on getting those mutas, and already Cure starting to control the tempo of this game once again, throwing down the block on that third. Again, so frustrating for Serral.
Yeah, and you wouldn't expect this kind of stuff to frustrate Serral anymore, but Cure's doing it at such a level where, you know, he's still doing this stuff, but at home everything seems to be going absolutely swimmingly. Serral, you know, I would assume that he knows how to deal with this type of stuff, right? He safeguards that drone over there as well. We'll be able to send over his queen. Okay, zoning out the Reaper right there. This is quite a good map to be able to zone out Reapers for, because if you put that queen on that ramp, it's going to be very rough for the Reapers to still come at that third base, right? He won't be able to just rotate around very quickly, which is also a reason why Hellion aggression may be a little bit harder to do overall on this one, because there's such a long pathway around to ultimately try and rotate around into that third base from the natural base.
So again, game number 3, Cure going for that quick third CC, and once again, I'm desperate to see how Serral is going to try and punish this, and I'm worried he won't. I'm worried that this is just going to be a very quick 2 barracks opener for Cure, and Cure's going to once again try to control the flow of this game. But right now, that third base being delayed is huge. Serral's trying to focus on getting that out. He's actually trying to avoid being supply blocked as well. That should be cleared up in just a moment. No lair tech here just yet, so I don't see a whole lot on the horizon other than lings and queens at this point for Serral. I'm having an interesting time trying to figure out where Serral wants to go with this game number 3.
Serral's still trying to get a bit of a read on Cure, right? Is he going mech again? Is he going BC again? Is he going bio once more? Is he going to go for the Widowmine drop? He did manage to get that Overlord into the base, so now he kind of knows, all right, I see Stimpack coming up, I see the 2 barracks. You can kind of see what you can and cannot do with this type of opening. And it looks like his response will be the quicker Baneling Nest and getting himself the lay attack out as well. It's going to start to look like he will be able to prep for Cure. Potentially going to be a Stimpack to the 2 Medevacs, right? Just get 2 batches of Marines into the Medevacs and start coming across. But also an armory is on the way, and that has not been scouted. So, you know what? Overall, combining the Hellbats with the Marines and the Stim this early on, that could still be quite devastating here, actually, for Serral, if he doesn't have enough Banelings up.
So I think that's going to be the talking point for this series. If Cure manages to get out of this 3-0, it's going to come at the disappointing scouting on Serral's end, where Serral is the master of information. He's always getting lings into your base. He's always getting an Overlord on top of what you are trying to build secretly in the back of your base. And I just don't feel like we've seen that in Serral in this series. So,
wait.
This could be kind of an interesting little ploy here. Ling's prepped and ready to go to try and get some background information, but that armory's already done, and the bush is coming out across the map, Kozan.
I misread that actually as well. Instead of Hellions, we didn't have that much Hellion production, in fact. There's only 2 of them. So Hellbat's not going to be a part of it. It's just going to be, once again, a quick follow-up with the Widowmine attack here. Seeing the Drilling Claws coming up also. It's still rather dangerous. I wouldn't have minded it having 2 Hellbats here together with this as well. Would even put further pressure onto that hatchery, and things are looking rather difficult here for Serral. That hatchery is getting lower and lower. He didn't cancel it. He wants to safeguard it, but there's no creep spread here, right? The Banelings don't have speed. It is about to get ready, though. The Banelings going to be able to get targeted down quite quickly. But getting close enough. Cure having to pick up right there.
I think Cure getting damage on that 4th base is good for him, just because it paints a target on that base. Now Serral's always going to have to try and have something there to protect it. He can't just leave it alone, because now even just that small hit squad on the bottom left for Cure could easily just stim on in and whittle that down if there aren't enough queens and lings to help protect it. So Serral now going to get into that spire, getting his next step out, and needs to try and find a way to slow down a Cure who is all over the map right now, doing a nice job of just controlling everything and getting so much damage with these mines.
Again, getting a good shot there onto those circlings. Looks like Serral is more on top of the drone, splitting right there, only taking 2 losses, so, you know what, hats off to him, doing a good job right there. Still needs to be careful, though, of course. We know that Cure, he may not be able to get the damage done in the first 1 or 2 drops, but he will keep it going until it finally starts to pay off. Right now, 6 workers go down. That is still manageable, as long as the Widowmines get cleaned up.
That's at least a better position for Serral to try and play from. If he can at least keep those losses in the single digits, he can at least pivot off of that.
Okay.
But again, it's continued damage here. Ooh, some very good patience by Cure. Doesn't want to immediately toss that away. And now he might get a whole bunch of lings for it. That was a way better engagement. Cure is just playing so methodically right now.
Yeah, doing really well. I think Serral's doing a lot better of a job, though, to defend against this, right? He's not taking that much damage. He's still being able to kind of do what he wants to. The Widowmines kind of whiffing their shots here and there as well quite a bit. And ultimately, Serral, it feels like he's in a much better position overall. He has 81 workers right now. And he will be able to start ramping out the Mutalisk, the Zerglings, and the Banelings quite nicely. The creep spread overall, again, not all the way where you would like it to be, especially on the left side, but may still be a little bit before Cure starts really pressing that area with the Marines.
Well, the upgrades right now are a little lopsided for Serral. He's already got that +2 carapace on the way. It's over halfway done, but it's only +1 melee attack as well, just getting into the mix. So 2-2 incoming for Cure on top of it. These mines going to continue to get more and more damage. Ooh, but he does lose the medevac, so not a free trade. But Serral getting some damage done with some banelings on the opposite side. 13 worker kills. That is now more in Serral's favor. This is something that we haven't seen a lot of in game number 1 and 2, is Serral getting a little aggressive with those drops of his own.
Yeah, needs to be careful for the Widow Mine. Still losing those 2 Mutalisk, of course, can be a bit annoying for the Zerg right there. But I mean, Cure, is he again in the natural base as well? I'm not quite sure. I saw something blink there. Anyway, 16 SCVs, not too bad. And maybe that's going to allow Serral to continue forwards with his own aggression, right? Keep that creep spread going and keep those Mutalisk across the field, keep Cure on his toes, and more so, most importantly, keeping the Widow Mines back at home, right? Having sent all those Widow Mines across the field means that there's a little bit less anti-air defense here, perhaps, for Cure, but it looks like he just kept making them, so still has a good amount at home as well.
Well, and it's just not bad in general. Even if you have a little extra, it's still something that holds its value over the course of the game. So Cure is not going to be afraid to invest that way at this point. We do have Hive on the way. Concussive Shells on the way for Cure as well. So Cure started to get ready for that late game transition for those Hive units, the Ultras. If there's still any Roche Ravager that gets added into the mix, sometimes that does happen, but most likely we are just going to still continue to see Mutiling Bane into that Ultra addition. Oh, it's going to be a good catch, getting almost all of those Banelings. And the mine actually does get traded out. 8 workers get picked off because of the Mutas. So Serral's trying to find some damage here and there and getting a little bit for his trouble, but not enough to really feel good just yet.
I'm surprised Serral wasn't expecting Widow Mines there, honestly. Just having a couple of Zerglings in front of those Banelings, right, to clear out the way for potential Widow Mines is a great way to kind of deal with that and still be able to get those connections that you're looking for. Overall, though, I mean, Serral's creep spread's looking pretty good. He did manage to get himself to max supply right here. He is getting that Ultralisk Gavin a bit earlier this time around, it feels like, as well. Just needs to ensure not to have a horrendous fight here somewhere.
Yeah, his creep spread is looking better in this game, but I feel like if you're playing Mutiling Bane, it's got to be further out onto the map because Serral is just not able to get on top of Cure and punish him for moving out and trying to clear that creep. So Serral's going to try and continue to make that happen. It's in a better spot, all things considered, so not a bad position for him to play from. This is going to be some good scouting information, seeing more of those barracks trying to go up in production. So we're going to see more of those Marines and Marauders, but he does get a good cancel. And now those Thors will be able to help zone. And this becomes that late game army that is going to start looking scary for Serral. He needs to find a way to start getting more damage done as Cure's trying to take more of those forward bases.
I think those barracks you mentioned, that may be one of the clearest indicators kind of at the difference of the amount of damage that Serral has taken here. In the previous time, in the previous match, game number 2, we saw Cure already starting up the tech labs with those extra Marauder production for those extra barracks before the Ultralisk Cavern was even in the production tab. This time around, we saw those 2 extra barracks coming up. But we're already having Ultralisk on the production tab now, so overall that is looking a little bit better for Serral here. It's a tiny thing, but ultimately, you know what? StarCraft 2 is a game about tiny things becoming bigger things over time, so...
What an interesting way to put that. I love it.
Nothing.
You're good. You're good. These Marauders are providing a lot of coverage here for Cure. I mean, there's so many Banelings at this base, and Serral cannot afford to just toss all of those away to Marauders. He's not going to be as efficient as he wants to, so Cure's going to continue pushing on forward here. That base is getting dangerously low, though. Now the Banelings are going to start pouring on forward. Marines getting caught out here. A good mine trade, but not as good. Serral does pull back at the last second. More of those workers going down to that Ling run by at the natural on top of it. So trying to get on top of everything is proving to be a very difficult task here for Serral. He's just not able to punish the way he wants to. But look at that worker count, 84 to 58. Serral's been able to work enough on that economy of Cure that he's whittled it enough down so Cure is going to be on the back foot here, and because of that, Serral should be able to claim a little bit of an economic lead, and he starts pulling the units lost tab a little bit closer. This is going about as good for Serral as he could hope right now.
Yeah, I think he needs to get a little bit more done though, right? Maybe get a base here or there. The Banelings here coming in. Maybe get those connections onto the SCVs. Okay, there we go. 11 more do fall. That means Cure indeed has to start replenishing those. He doesn't have that many orbitals right now. Most of his bases outside are still planetaries. He didn't have a bank to just make a ton of those orbitals just nilly-willy everywhere. More SCVs do fall due to the Nautilus, but again taking quite significant hits right there. Serral not quite on top of sniping those Widow mines, right? He's kind of flying into them, and
yeah, he's just having a difficult time trying to get those done, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He's being pulled apart in a lot of different ways, trying to micro his Lings and Banes against this Bioforce that is now trying to split up in a couple of different locations. The Baneling count is really good. The engagement is proving to be difficult here as these Banelings continue to try and find the juicy underbelly of this Bioforce, but unfortunately not able to trade it as effectively as he wants. Cure has enough army here. He's going to be able to shut down yet another base of Serral, and all of a sudden we start to see Cure pulling this economic lead back just a little bit, and now these mutas are going to try and clean up as much as they can to get their efficiency as good as possible, because that building armor has now finished, so those mutas will not be able to pick off those turrets as cleanly. They won't be able to get on top of those planetaries as easily as they were before, so they're trying to find as much value as they possibly can before they do get phased out.
Man, Serral continuously trying to commit for these locations and then just realizing I do not have enough and having to pull backwards. Is that all he has left of his Mutalist right now? That's not a lot. Looks like more Widowmines did did claim more victims, it would appear. And the army supply of Cure right now, 142. He just has the stuff he needs right now, right? The economic damage from Serral just wasn't enough, unfortunately, really to stop Cure from being able to still replenish these sources and get himself up to a 200 max supply ultimately. And yeah, that is why he's now being able to be so dominant, so aggressive on the top side. But Serral trying to commit here once more. The Banelings again getting cleaned up rather nicely, and the Ultralisk, it doesn't look like they will be enough. Another Baneling comes in, but I mean, sending encirclings one by one is not a great way of dealing with this type of stuff. Corruptus here also getting picked off. Oh my god, that's a massive oversight there for Serral also. I think Cure is making it work.
It's so many high-value units getting traded out here for Serral, and on the back side of this, I mean, he's making mostly Zerglings. Now, he does have 5 Corruptors and an Ultra on the way, but if he's not going to get the trades that he's looking for, it starts to become a more difficult fight for him down the road as he starts to eat into his bank. He starts to lose more and more of these bases as Cure picks off the bottom left-hand corner base. And now his air army is very, very weak and low right now, so those medevacs will be able to continue getting as much coverage as they possibly can with less fear of being picked off. Now we have the reinforcements coming on in. It's Banelings off creep once again, and so many Marauders that will help zone for those Marines, and Serral is just not taking good engagements at this point. He's starting to run out of resources to play with as well as Cure gets in on top of another base. It's already halfway there. And it just goes down.
The things. Oh my god, that was a clean attack there by Cure, being able to pick it off, immediately jumping back into those medevacs. And now once more on the top side here, coming in, more Marauders, more Marines, more Widow Mines as well, and things are just looking very dicey. Look at the spread of those Marauders. That is single target fire that those Banelings and those Ultralisks will be able to achieve. And ultimately, once again, a very inefficient trade for Serral, which he cannot afford to do so right now. Kjør is absolutely everywhere. Once more on the bottom side. Serral as far on the back foot as he can be, I feel like, at the moment. So the supply not too far apart, but it's just like the base is being taken out here by Kjør. That is the main problem for Serral. He needs to stabilize these bases, and you know what? He needs to start thinking about having another one.
Yeah, I know those numbers are really, really close together, but unfortunately, I believe Kjør just has more potential in that army count. Picking off those medevacs is good, but unfortunately, not going to do it. And an 0-3 sends Serral packing in the round of 8. GG. Kjør advances on to the semifinals.